105 years ago, in the first week of November, one of the most drastic resolutions was passed that continues to impact the ummah and has changed the course of global history. And every one of us should be aware of this. What am I referring to? I'm referring to the very unfortunate document known as the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration, we are commemorating, I shouldn't say commemorating, it is quote unquote the anniversary, but for us it's not a positive anniversary. It is this exact week, 105 years ago, November, first week of November in 1917, when this document was drafted and sent. So what is this document? As we said, 105 years ago, this very day, this very week, 1917, the Balfour Declaration was issued. It is a letter written by the Foreign Secretary of England by the name of Lord Arthur Balfour. So it's called the Balfour Declaration because his name is Balfour. And he wrote it to somebody by the name of Lord Rothschild. And in this letter, which was hand-delivered from the ministry to the house of this private citizen, again, the plot thickens, the government expresses its interest to create a national homeland for the Jewish people in the land of Palestine. This is what is known as the Balfour Declaration. So how did this come about? Remember, at the turn of the century, less than 3% of Palestine was inhabited by Jewish people. 97% of this region was Muslim and Christian. The majority Muslim, and there was a healthy percentage of Christians. From the time of the Crusade, Salah ad-Din Ayyubi allowed the Christians to live there. And there were also some Jewish people, 3% local indigenous Arab Jews. They spoke Arabic as a language. They were Arab Jews living in peace and harmony. No problems in that region. So how could this letter come about that is saying in this 3% Jewish land, we're going to make it an entire Jewish land? This is what the Balfour Declaration is. Now, of interest here is that the Balfour Declaration intentionally used very ambiguous language. The document says, and I quote from it, that the British government, listen to this, views with favor the establishment of a national home for Jewish people, end quote. Look at the language. Views with favor. It's not legal language here. It's an emotion. It's not legal language. The UK, the British government, views with favor. What type of legal language is this? Also, look at what they say. That national home, not national state. Why? Why did they have this ambiguous language? Historians point out, they knew that this document would cause a backlash from the parliament. They knew that if they're going to say to the world that we're going to create a Jewish nation, a state, it's going to cause problems. So they didn't say, the Balfour Declaration does not state that England is going to establish a country. No, look at it. Views with favor, national home, purposely ambiguous, right? Now, the intention was a state, but the language does not state that. You understand what I'm saying here, right? The intention, you're going to carve out a country, but the language is very vague, and it was done on purpose. Also, in the document, it says that, it explicitly states that the local population of non-Jews, their rights must not be trespassed against. They say non-Jews. They don't say Muslims and Arabs. 95% of the people are Muslim. It says the non-Jewish population. So as again, not to bring in explicitly that the majority are going to be Muslim over there. Now the question arises, and this is the big question. Why? Why would England promise, why would the UK promise the Zionist lobby that they're going to create a land in Palestine? What is United Kingdom gaining out of this? I'm going to be very academic here and tell you, frankly, nobody knows. The theories are many. I'll give you some of them. Because it boggles the mind. Why would England in 1917 want to promise 1% of the Jewish population? Because remember, 99% of the Jewish people were not interested in a state right now. Remember, Nazi Germany still hasn't happened. Hitler hasn't even come to power. He's not even known. This is 1917. American Jews and European Jews have no interest in leaving their lands. They're living comfortably. Why would we go somewhere else, risk our lives? The people aren't going to like us. It wasn't popular. So why would the English government, the British government, adopt this plan? There are so many theories. Frankly, nobody knows for certain. What is this? Of these theories is that they felt, that the British government felt, that they would get the global support of the Jewish diaspora, and that the American Jews, the British Jews, would then support the efforts of World War I, and people like Chaim Weizmann, who was very wealthy, like Lord Rothschild, who was a multi-billionaire, that their finances and their patents would help World War I. That is a theory, and it makes sense. At the same time, one could point out that these are few individuals, and the bulk of world Jewish people are not interested in Zionism. So one can say that this didn't seem like a wise move. Others have pointed out that during this time frame, if you know your history, the czars of Russia were overthrown, the Bolsheviks come to power. And many of the key Bolsheviks were actually of a Jewish background. So another theory, England wanted to appease the Russians by this. They're worried about this new power. They're not sure, will the Bolsheviks side with them or against them? So this is a theory. Allah knows best. A third theory is that they wanted to appease to the German Jews. So we have the American Jews, the British Jews, the German Jews, the Russian Jews. The German Jews under Wilhelm III, the Kaiser Wilhelm III. So at this time, remember, there is no Nazi party in Germany. This is 1917. German Jewish people, by and large, are living comfortable lives. So their support is for the Kaiser, which is the German side. They feel, maybe the British feel, if we give them Palestine, they might support us. All of these are theories. I'm going to conclude with the fourth one, which probably makes the most sense. In the end of the day, to this day, historians are scratching their heads. Why would England do this, right? I'm going to conclude with the fourth one, and that is, they're not actually making an appeal to the world Jewish federations at all. Actually, their appeal is to Christians, and to Christians who sympathize with Zionism, and in particular, to this country that we are living in right here. Because America had not yet entered the war. And Christian Zionism, what is Christian Zionism? Christian Zionism is exactly what it is. These are people of a Christian background who, for religious reasons, want the creation of Israel because they think it's going to expedite the coming of Jesus Christ, right? And this movement was now spreading in America. So a fourth theory is that this Balfour Declaration is actually meant to tip the scales of Christians here in America. And the administration here was, and still is, full of Christian Zionists. As you're aware, Trump appeals to them all the time. Remember, he moved the capital to Jerusalem. Why did he do this? For the Christian Zionist base, right? So, the notion, therefore, the Balfour Declaration was meant to persuade America to enter the war and to side with the UK against the German forces. This might have more sense because otherwise the other previous theories don't really make any sense. So the British did not gain anything by the Balfour Declaration. On the contrary, it created a set of problems that we are dealing with to this day. Because of the Balfour Declaration, more and more people were allowed to immigrate to Palestine, and they were immigrating so fast that even England had to stop the quota and say no more immigration. And when England said no more immigration, the Jewish people of Palestine became terrorists, well known, and they started killing British soldiers. And they engineered a very massive bombing in the King David Hotel, infamous bombing. Over 100 people were killed. Most of them were British. So the Jewish people, or I should say the Zionist people, start fighting the British. The British decide to leave, and they hand over Palestine to the League of Nations and say, we have nothing to do with it, you guys decide. And the League of Nations in 1947, 1948, they vote and they say, khalas, we're going to create Israel. And because the Muslim world at the time and the Arab world did not have the type of political connections and the clout and the wherewithal to negotiate and to argue. They're still new to the world of global politics. They didn't have a statesman. They didn't have a land in a country. They didn't have representation. And the Zionist Federation did. the League of Nations voted in the State of Israel, and the rest, as they say, is history.